want to talk about douching. Watch this. This is Glenn Greenwald reacting. He's like, my fucking gravy train is drying up. I had a regular slot on that fucking show. I was thinking Lev Parnas would be a good guest to discuss the hard drive orange. I love that idea, Rallis.
Good evening, it's Monday, April 24th. Well,
and thank you for coming to my studio that I set up here in Brazil. We were going to shoot porn here, but the edges are too sharp.
Welcome to a new episode of System Update, our live nightly show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Oh my God, I'm excited.
Exclusively here on Rumble.
And this doesn't feel at all like an instructional video for somebody who just signed on to be part of T-Mobile's team.
The free speech alternative to YouTube. Tonight, very breaking news.
Very breaking news. I don't know the professional language that goes into shows like this. Very, very breaking. But do tell.
Tucker Carlson, the most...
This is he's an Andy Kaufman character? Right.
...popular and most watched cable news host in the history of that medium.
In the history of that entire medium, nobody did it better.
Is no longer at Fox News.
Oh, no.
Effective immediately.
Effective immediately. Did you fire him?
In a terse and cryptic statement.
Terse and cryptic, which I think mean different things.
Fox announced today that it and its highest rated host.
I'm sorry, what?
That medium is no longer at Fox News, effective immediately. In a terse and cryptic statement, Fox announced today that it and its highest rated host have, quote...
Yeah, that was cryptic. Is that the cryptic part? In the what?
Is no longer at Fox News, effective immediately. In a terse and cryptic statement, Fox announced today that it and its highest rated host...
It ate... I can't figure it out. I think he's saying they ate their top-rated host, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that because it's also not English.
Have, quote, agreed to part ways.
Agreed to part ways. Quoting. We're quoting now. It was a very weird quote. Honestly, they were walking down a hallway and they were very busy, and it was probably my fault.
Adding, quote, we thank him for...
Oh, they quoted themselves while the quote was happening. Mid-quote, they quoted. I see.
His service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. That was all they said.
That's all they said. Well, they said his last show was Friday. They did say that. But hey, that's just the facts of the statement. They didn't add random vowels either, but whatever.
This glaringly stingy and ungenerous statement.
Glaringly stingy and ungenerous. So you're saying it was a sexual assault problem at the network, the kind of shit they say when they broomed Bill O'Reilly. That's what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? I think it's a very strong allegation to make, Glenn. You should be able to back it up.
Combined with the fact that Tucker was...
I'm sorry, hack it up. Was
not even given an opportunity to say goodbye.
Oh my God.
Was audience or...
Oh no. Never? He can never say goodbye. Is that in the contract?
Explain his departure. His last program was on Friday night at its normal time with no indication that this would be his last show. It was obviously something Tucker was unaware of on Friday night.
Yep, that's right. Totally caught him off guard. Afterwards, he was enjoying a nice frozen Swanson dinner in his dressing rooms while he got his toenails done. And somebody barged in the middle of his Salisbury steak and said, "You're fired, kid. Get out of here." And they were wearing a Trump mask, which was so dickish because at first he thought it was a joke.
Indicates that this is not exactly an amiable separation. Reporting is very sparse about the proximate cause.
Yeah, but don't let that stop you from making shit up. I mean, come on. Just assume and move forward, Glenn. It's your gig.
Of what happened. And despite my best efforts today, I too...
Your efforts or your best efforts? Which was it?
I've been able to find out very little.
Well, you are a journalist after all. So I guess there was just very little to find out. If you were only able to find out very little, that's all there was.
About what the immediate spark was.
Hi there. I'm the immediate spark. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like and subscribe. Thanks, Glenn. back to you.
But that doesn't mean I find this event shocking or even surprising.
No, I knew it was going to happen all the time. I really did. I knew it was going to go. I mean, I didn't know when or if or where or how, but I knew it. You know what I mean? Like where you're like, you know, like you don't even think about something for a long time, and then it happens and you go, I knew it. You know, it's like one of those.
We'll undoubtedly find out about what led to this abrupt and almost certainly less than amicable separation, but
Almost.
that doesn't mean there's nothing of value to say or that there's no meaning to derive from this remarkable decision.
Yeah, you're right. Of all the remarkable decisions that Fox has made, this is the most remarkable.
What led to this abrupt and almost certainly less than amicable separation, but that doesn't mean there's nothing of value to say or that there's no meaning to derive from this remarkable decision.
This remarkable, right. Which is dramatic and remarkable together. I love how this guy makes up words. I'm for it. Keep going.
That Tucker's program...
By the way, do you know Don Jr.? You guys should talk at each other like you know those two toddlers in that video that was just adorable.
Has thrived for so long at the key 8 p.m. hour on Fox, having taken over for Bill O'Reilly when
9?
He, as the top-rated show, was forced out in 2017, is really something of a fascinating aberration.
I don't know. I'm not that fascinated overall.
Each year since he took over, Tucker has moved further and further away from long-standing Republican orthodoxy. And that orthodoxy...
Yeah, well, that's because the entire Republican Party and all of Fox News has moved away from conservative orthodoxy. It's moved away from conservative thought into just fucking loony land.
As it was expressed in the Bush-Cheney era, and before that, even in the Reagan era.
The who?
And further away.
Oh, the Bush-Cheney era?
From long-standing Republican orthodoxy. And that orthodoxy, as it was expressed in the Bush-Cheney era. And
Bush-Cheney era? Sure.
Before that, even in the Reagan era.
Even then.
Is something that a large segment of American conservatism, as expressed by Tucker, has increasingly come to reject.
No, they're not rejecting like Reaganomics, trickle-down economics at all. They're not rejecting shoot first, ask questions later, you know, Bush doctrine bullshit. They absolutely still believe in torture and all that kind of shit. They just don't give a fuck about some of the theaters of war that other people care about. That's it. I mean, these are the same people like, fuck it, nuke them.
Like the 2016 Trump campaign.
Yes, which was just magic. Remember, let's all look back.
Which was run explicitly in opposition to longstanding establishment Republican pieties on militarism, war, foreign...
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Policy and even economics.
No, it wasn't. Other than, like, he just wants to get in a tariff war with the Chinese. It's based on kind of standard Republican racist bullshit that had sort of had a pin put in it for a couple of decades.
Carlson's program has increasingly been shaped by divergence from establishment Republican policies.
Like, it's bad if a foreign government like Russia seizes a journalist from the Wall Street Journal, especially, and you cheerlead for Russia during that time, especially when your boss actually owns the Wall Street Journal.
And dissent from the bipartisan neoliberal class that has long ruled Washington and continues to do so with ample bipartisan support.
Yeah, it's a democracy. I don't know what to tell you. Like, people are gonna have to get together on shit.
More often than not, one heard radically different views from Tucker's show during the 8 p.m. hour, and then the views of the far more reliable Republican partisan Sean Hannity during the 9 p.m. hour.
Who still has his job. Weird.
It's almost impossible to conceive of any such difference happening on MSNBC and CNN with radically different ideological perspectives.
What the fuck are you talking about? There was a distinct issue with, like, between, if it wasn't for Morning Joe, first of all, Trump wouldn't have won in 2016 because he's got a shit ton of free press around that. Chuck Todd's always been running interference for Republicans. There's a radical difference between those two shows and fucking Maddow at 9 o'clock at the, in the opposite of Tucker's time slot.
from 1 hour to the next. The 10 p.m. hour on Fox, hosted by Laura Ingraham, was somewhere in the middle of those two, though closer to Tucker's worldview than to Hannity's. The same is true.
So you're saying Hannity's not going to get fired, but Laura, you might want to maybe, I don't know, if you can get a lower mortgage payment, I'd look into it.
Perhaps a tad less so for the 7 p.m. hour hosted by Jesse Waters.
Well, it's nice to know that you know the whole schedule by heart. Can you prattle off the evening lineup of CNN or MSNBC with these like that? Or are we getting a window into what you actually watch, Mr. Independent Journalist?
So all of that shows a very serious ideological flux within the Republican Party and in American conservatism. And all of this, and especially Tucker's abrupt departure, reflects a sharp and vibrant debate and ideological dissent within the GOP and American...
Oh, that's what it is. It's a sharp and ideological divide that led to his firing, which you know none of the details of, and more than likely simply had to do with the whatever Dominion $787 million lawsuit had elements of it that also said, P.S. you got to fire Tucker Carlson and these four other people. I'm going with that.
Conservatism more generally, a debate and a vibrancy that is utterly absent from the Democratic Party.
Yes, we're the cohesion in our party has dogged us for quite some time. I don't know what we're thinking.
And the liberal left media that serves it, which is almost always in lockstep.
No.
With party leaders on every key issues.
Well, that's because the general public also leans that way. So you're telling me that it's news that the mainstream media or the mainstream news sources cater to the majority of viewers and not like fringe elements. That's weird.
And it is that vibrant ideological split that is the key context for understanding Tucker Carlson's departure from Fox.
Why? You don't know why he left. You don't know. You don't know if it was, a pretend amicable, like very business-like phrase out of Fox. You don't know whether that was caused by them having contractually they have to say something nice even when he leaves, even if they tell him to piss off, or if they're afraid of what he has on them, or vice versa, and they just don't want to let people know that they were housing a criminal in their midst for a while or whatever. You don't know any of that shit. But no. You know what? Fuck it. I don't even know why I'm even thinking that. It's Glenn Greenwald. Of course. Certainly, the reality behind this is that, he's privy to this kind of detail, and he has to wink and nod it, for transparency's sake. This is he wasn't able to talk to anybody, but when he did talk to the person he wasn't able to talk to, they didn't say that it was Soros.
Then, and very relatedly, speaking of the lockstep and repressive climate that prevails in left liberal politics and media and in those Democratic Party circles that those factions serve.
Yes. The totalitarian liberalism that is authoritarian. Look at this. Authoritarian escalation over there. And a picture of AOC looking on coquettishly, friendly. Or actually, maybe she looks like she's doing a martial arts salute.
Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
That bitch. I mean.
Of New York. And what is certainly a coincidence.
Yeah, totally.
But yet a very revealing one nonetheless.
Yeah, totally revealing coincidence. Totally.
Went on to the new MSNBC program of Joe Biden's former White House press secretary Jen Psaki on Sunday.
Psaki. But who cares? Greenwald.
And explicitly urged the United States.
Explicitly. Look, I'm sure those letters are all there when you write it. And as a writer, you know the importance of letters. Maybe when you're talking as a broadcaster, say all of them all of the letters as well, or acknowledge and when you flub just like I did. See what I mean? It's not that hard.
Government and the Biden administration to ban Tucker Carlson from, quote, being permitted to appear on television. That despotic view,
What?
one that any mainstream political figure would have been far too ashamed to publicly advocate even a decade ago, is now utterly standard and acceptable in the left liberal wing of the Democratic Party that is always somehow finding new ways to become even more authoritarian and crypto-tyrannical.
Crypto-tyrannical. Which I honestly, it sounds like an NFT of a dinosaur, but what? And you know, of course, of all people, Joe Biden basically takes orders from AOC. That's always been the complaint.
We'll examine why AOC's demands about censorship of Tucker's show are
so unnecessary now that he's been fired.
so reflective of her rotted political faction and
reflective?
more authoritarian and crypto-tyrannical.
Crypto-tyrannical. Get the fuck out of here.
Examine why AOC's demands about censorship of Tucker's show are so reflective of her rotted political faction. And the reason why Tucker's separation from Fox may be the best thing that could have happened to him in terms of his influence and impact, provided that he ends up joining the independent sector of media.
Or just retires a rich asshole because he did the bidding of some terrible people for a long time. And he gets a castle in fucking Hungary out of it.
Which is that represented by Rumble, which is the only sector of media now that is thriving, growing, and most importantly, immune from the despotic censorship pressures of AOC and her left liberal media.
I don't know. BitChute is where Nick Fuentes is, so I feel like you can go even more free speech than Rumble. Even Rumble has its limits, dum-dum. Test them and see.
Media ally.
Reflective, but it's all reflective of the entire, right-wing media sphere.
We'll examine all of that tonight.
Oh, good.
As a reminder, System Update is available in podcast form.
You don't say. Really? I don't know why anybody listens to the podcast because they'd miss out on seeing this prefab set you bought from China and had shipped to Brazil.
Appears 12 hours after the show first appears here.
But how could I wait? Why would it be 12 hours? Because they got to cut out words like reflective.
Live on Rumble. You can follow us on Spotify.
Yeah, but let's be honest, we're probably not going to.
On Apple or any other major podcasting.
Yeah, big tech.
Platform where
where it's safe.
You can listen to our show there, rate and review us to help spread the show's visibility. For now,
I don't know I don't think my rate and review would help, honestly.
Welcome to a new episode of System Update, starting right now.
Wait a minute, it didn't start already? Jesus Christ, you've been talking for 10 fucking minutes. Look at him giving himself an ASCII screen. Oh, and he's going deeper into this shit. But we get a different angle. He hung on that fucking opening that long? Why the entire... Jesus Christ. You can't bounce back and forth? That's just ramble opening and then this shit. Jesus Christ, he had ASCII art made of himself. ChatGPT or Midjourney much? It's good. It's good. I feel like I've been red-pilled, or green-pilled, or plaid-pilled. I've been plaid-pilled.
It's almost impossible to imagine a bigger story in cable news or even in American media generally.
No, it isn't. No, it's really easy. I would how about this? The American government passes a law against news being able to use advertising because it leads to too much pressure on the news to falsify reality, and so a law has been passed, bipartisan. Fox News itself turns out to be like They Live or To Serve Man, and the whole building's been a spaceship this whole time, and we discovered that they've been eating people, and they just jettison and escape. I mean, I can imagine that. I'm just saying, don't ever question my fucking imagination.
Then the announcement by Fox News this morning that came very abruptly and
it was like they burped all over the place
without any explanation. in cable news or even in American media generally than the announcement by Fox News this morning that came very abruptly, without any explanation.
Nope, none whatsoever. Just we're parting ways, and Friday was his last show, and see ya, wouldn't want to be ya.
That Tucker Carlson is no longer employed at Fox News, and his highest rated program, Tucker Carlson Show at 8 p.m., will no longer appear on...
I think it's called Tucker Carlson Tonight, or was called it. It's obviously... Is that... You're not supposed to dead name his show? Is that the rule now?
That network. As I said, there will be certainly a lot of reporting that emerges over the next few days, and
no doubt.
We'll try and do a lot of that.
You'll try and do a lot of that. Why? First of all, as it comes out, you won't have to try. You'll just comment on the reporting of other people, Glenn. That's what you do now. Secondly, is nobody returning your fucking phone calls at Fox?
That exposes exactly what the most...
First of all, just for the record, there's no fucking way he doesn't know at least one person at Fox News who on the DL would tell him what the fuck happened. And so he's either forgotten that he knows that person, because who gives a shit? That person's not... They're so small in terms of Tucker Carlson Show that they still have their job.
Proximate causes were, not just of what led to the separation, but why it happened in this way.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a little bit of Bill O'Reilly action. You know what I'm saying?
There was no announcement that Tucker's last show would be in several weeks.
No, there wasn't. That's true. That's true. Hey, when you're right, you're right. And you're right.
There was no explanation provided by Fox or by Tucker today about exactly what it is that happened. It's somewhat shrouded in mystery.
It is. It's somewhat shrouded in mystery, but it's also just a mystery without even the shroud. Honestly, you don't even have to shroud it in mystery. It just, we don't know yet. It's not so much a shroud, so much as lack of information currently on a corporate firing of a TV anchor, but shroud.
Exactly what the events were over the last few days that led to this unexpected decision.
I think there's a lot of big stuff that's been going on. Fox has been, the News Corp has been in the news lately, and there are a couple of things that I think stand out. One is they just lost $787 million.
Clearly, given not just that it happened, but how it happened.
If it happened, where it happened, when it happened, why it happened.
It's almost certainly the case.
Almost certainly. There's a lot of almost certainly in this. Is it just me, or is that phrase like a fucking tick for Glenn Greenwald? Almost certainly with Glenn Greenwald. I would change the name of the show. System Update is boring. Almost certainly makes way more sense.
That it was not amiable.
Almost certainly.
Amiable separations after 5 or 6 years with the network come with a lot of fanfare, a lot of positive things that they say about one another.
Yes. When they split ways after 7 years, they certainly the networks are always nice when the talent leaves because they're not getting paid enough money and they want to go make money elsewhere, or the talent is fired because they engaged in some gnarly shit while they were working the network. Usually there's a lot of "we wish you well." By the way, this is what they say about everybody. Almost certainly.
Vague reasons why it's happening, and most importantly of all,
I don't think they're vague. I mean, show a picture of Tucker's face and go, oh yeah, I can see why he was fired.
End date that gives the host an opportunity to speak one last time to his audience.
Yes, because in today's media, there are no other outlets except the big three.
About the reasons he's leaving and what it might be that he would be doing in the future.
Yeah, what does he be doing? Why won't they let him have one final show to sell the show he's going to do without them? As a direct competitor to the time slot. Why wouldn't Fox want to do that?
Brian Stelter, after he was fired by CNN despite having no audience, or because he had no audience, was given that opportunity. That's generally customary.
Yeah, but he didn't cost the network $700 million. That might be it. He cost them one more show.
The fact that Tucker is just taken off the air.
Yeah, it's just a fact. It was just taken off the air. It was just taken. They took him. I have a particular set of skills, and I will find you, and I will put Tucker back, get him a nightly slot, maybe an afternoon thing on Newsmax.
Abruptly, with no opportunity to even speak one last time to his audience.
He didn't get a chance to speak one last time to his audience. You're sure? Because you haven't brought that up 7 times in the last 19 sentences.
Is a pretty strong sign that whatever happened.
It is a pretty strong sign. Song sign.
Happened with some degree of acrimony and some degree of animus.
Almost certainly.
And I'm a little bit constrained to be perfectly transparent.
For once in my life.
In my ability to speculate on why that is. It's Tucker Show is one on which I often appear.
What? Why would that hold you back from speculating? What, are you afraid to lose a slot on the replacement? That's right.
Along with other Fox shows like Laura Ingraham and Jesse Waters and Howie Kurtz's media show on Sunday. And Tucker is a friend of mine, and so I'm...
Yeah, but he's not returning your calls, and he won't tell you what the fuck happened.
Reluctant to do anything like speak for him or...
But, you know, almost certainly.
Speculate based on things I know as part of those more personal conversations. As I said, though, reporting in terms of finding out inside Fox, finding out what happened is certainly something I've been doing all day and will continue to do, and will report on what I learn as soon as I'm...
So no one's returning your phone call. We get it. You're also, aren't you supposed to be a fucking outsider, Snowden world? I don't deal with the mainstream or whatever, but then you're going to go, like, I obviously have lots of friends and people that I'm very close to at Fox News, and I've none of them are returning my phone calls. It's like, you'd think I was the one that was fired.
No media reports today have tried to shine any light on what might have caused this separation.
Other than the $787 million.
And Tucker has, at least as of this moment, not spoken out at all publicly.
So it's probably something dirty.
In terms of...
Something dirty, isn't it?
What took place.
I mean, it's something, whatever took place, it was dirty. Something dirty.
So until he does...
Yeah, we'll just assume it was something dirty. I think that's wise.
And until there's more reporting...
And...
That's reliable, not reporting that comes from hostile news organizations like CNN...
Hostile news organizations like CNN. I got news from you. You know what the difference between CNN and Fox is? CNN didn't just fire that motherfucker. There's no other more hostile act than kicking somebody to the curb.
Anonymous sources in the New York Times, we should assume that we don't yet know the precipitating events over the last few days.
We don't. You should, because you have friends there, and you're friends with him, and you talk to him, and you have talked to him. You didn't see this coming. You didn't have any idea, so he didn't have any idea. And then you couldn't call anybody else there, because they're not returning your fucking phone calls. Because I'm going to go with they're a hostile news organization. That's fine.
But there are certainly things that are worth analyzing.
Yeah. Make shit up. Go for it.
And meaning that we can derive from the fact this happened the way that it happened.
And almost certainly.
So what I want to begin with is the simple fact that Tucker Carlson's program was simply like any other program that appears on cable news, and that
yeah, it was just like every other show. I mean, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, it was basically average. I mean, it's just like, what the fuck is the difference? Like, what am I even watching? Who's on right now? Who is this guy? It's like toilet paper. I couldn't tell Tucker. I couldn't pick Tucker Carlson out of a lineup. The show was just so like, get on with it.
I would suggest has ever appeared on cable news.
Yeah, just like any other show ever in the history of ever. Boring.
It is a widespread perception among the few viewers that CNN has, or the readers that the New York Times has, or people who follow the Democratic Party.
Or former viewers of the Tucker Carlson show, Tucker Carlson Tonight, which is no more. I gotcha.
That Fox News is this monolith.
Thank you, Craig.
That the American right and Republican Party is a monolith. that they all believe the same things about everything, that it's a cult of Donald Trump, that there's no criticism ever aired of Donald Trump?
No, well, especially in Tucker Carlson's case, where the text message came out recently in the Dominion case that on the air he was supporting Donald Trump, and behind the scenes he was like, I fucking hate that guy. So, but at least, at least there wasn't any duplicity.
Something that you have to be completely ignorant in order to believe.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, the maggots, the Trump world, totally a different zone of, there's no, like, that's just this much. And then there's the rhinos, which are this much. And then there's the Ron Paul libertarians, which are...
Tucker Carlson's show by itself is living proof, a breathing testament.
No. And it was on life support, and it turns out it passed away, sadly, at the age of 7. Taken so young.
To how much vibrant and often sharp debate there is.
No, actually. Apparently not.
Within Republican Party politics and the broader American conservative movement. And one of the reasons why people who are left liberals and followers of the Democratic Party and who only get their information from the New York Times and the Washington Post and
yes, we understand. You have a chip on your shoulder about the New York Times and the Washington Post, but you cite them nonstop just like Ben Shapiro and Glenn Beck do, like the assholes that you are.
CNN and
again, why can I just point of order, Mr. Chairman, if I may. These motherfuckers quote the New York Times and the Washington Post all the goddamn time to support their argument. So obviously they trust the reporting when they need it.
ABC News have no conception of these debates on the right is because there is none on the left.
Yeah, we're all lockstep. Totally. Yep. That's the thing about Democrats. We all think exactly alike. That's why the whole Bernie Sanders, Bernie bro thing, and Biden, it was not really a thing.
Meaning the mainstream left, the mainstream liberal left.
What's the difference then? Mainstream left and the mainstream liberal left. We're both mainstream left. So what about the fringe? The fringe.
There was just a report in Politico.
Oh, in Politico. Mainstream news?
10 days ago.
Yes, yeah, I'm familiar with Politico. I would call them a mainstream news source.
On the career trajectory of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who you may remember branded herself when she ran in 2018 as a primary challenger to Joe Crowley, who many suspected might be Nancy Pelosi's successor to lead the Democratic Party. She branded herself an insurgent of the Democratic Party.
An insurgent, which is a ninja insurgent, right? Yeah, but then she decided to go against it because you want people to think she was wearing a hijab. I understand. I mean, we know the difference between a ninja outfit and a hijab. I don't know why she thought that. Whatever. The sword would have been a giveaway.
A critic of the Democratic Party as much as the Republican Party.
No, not quite.
Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign as well described itself as leading a political revolution, not against the Republican Party, but against the establishment wings of both parties.
Yeah, he's an independent who used the Democratic Party as a super PAC. What the fuck does that have to do with regular order Democrats or liberals?
Particularly the Democratic Party.
Particularly.
And yet in 2020, when Bernie Sanders' campaign was sabotaged by the Democratic establishment, just as it was in 2016.
No. So, okay. So, yeah, that's a good point. It was sabotaged just like in 2016. So, not at all.
He didn't express real anger about that fact.
Because he saw the polls that show that he has a 27% national voter ceiling, period, end of story. And Biden was more respectful to the wishes of his group of voters than the Hillary camp was comfortable being because they were busy fighting off Donald Trump, who you supported.
He didn't urge his supporters to rise up and protest to the Democratic establishment. He instead,
because he lost fair and square and we'd had enough of that shit,
instructed them all that they should do what he was about to do, which was fall obediently and loyally into line
to actually get some shit done. Because progressive thought requires actual progress at some point.
Behind Joe Biden and the Democrats.
As opposed to declaring war on the nation and running up the stairs and carrying a Confederate flag in the fucking Capitol and taking a dump in the rotunda and building a gallows and yelling, "Hang Mike Pence." Gee, I don't know why they didn't just flip a coin.
And that's exactly what Bernie Sanders proceeded to do as a reward.
The fuck does this have to do with Tucker Carlson being out of Fox News?
He became the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. When is the last time you heard Bernie Sanders say anything that alienates or is contrary to the core agenda of Joe Biden?
Well, Biden aligned parts of his agenda with Bernie Sanders, and Bernie recognized, I think, like a sane person, that it would benefit his constituents and his and voters who care about the things he cares about to support those aspects of what Biden is trying to do. That would be that's a functioning democracy. Yes, being at war with a person who's actually listening to you seems what's the word? Fucking bananas.
In the Democratic Party.
And why are you coke jawing?
The same exact path was followed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to the point that Politico just this week, or last week,
whenever,
celebrated her, rewarded her, patted her on the head.
Pardoned her on the head. Pardon me, boy.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to the point that Politico just this week, or last week, celebrated her, rewarded her, patted her on the head.
They pardoned her on the head.
Because
what does that entail? Because it sounds naughty.
It announced that AOC is now a, quote, team player.
Right. It is a democracy. You do recognize that the Democratic Party is indeed a party of people who think the same thing. They might have disagreements about how to get there, but they try to work that out as part of a team, as opposed to little fiefdoms like Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's say.
That she's now playing the inside game, that she started off as someone who pretended to be a dissident to Democratic Party politics.
And then she realized if she actually wants to help her constituents and she actually wants to get something done, it takes fucking work.
Establishment orthodoxy.
Establishment orthodoxy, like infrastructure. Jesus Christ. Let it go, Democrats, okay? Jesus is never coming back, and he sure is not going to fix a fucking bridge.
And instead has become one of the most valuable instruments of the Democratic Party. Someone who's...
Besides, of course, the soprano saxophone, which, is the key. Ask Kenny G.
Completely loyal to the Biden...
The official instrument of the Democratic Party.
Administration, who almost never critiques Democratic leaders or Democrat...
What the fuck does this have to do with Tucker Carlson?
Party orthodoxy.
What an asshole.
And so the movement that formed around Bernie Sanders and AOC, the media outlets and the media figures who got rich by branding themselves as followers of Bernie and AOC, who pretended to be edgy, dissident outsiders to Democrats.
Oh, you mean like you and The Intercept pretending to be anti-establishment and against the mainstream media, and yet you got fucking Tucker Carlson on speed dial because he's the #1 cable news host in the fucking country? What's that like?
Democratic Party politics.
Good God. Like, this dude, you think this asshole ever listens to himself? Son of a bitch.
Have followed AOC and Bernie into captivity into the Democratic Party.
Into captivity. Yes, but we are treating them very well. I mean, before we skin them and eat them.
To the point where when Joe Biden wanted $40 billion more.
40 million billion. That's a lot of money. I don't even know how many zeros that is, but it's a bunch. It's like a bowl of Cheerios with no milk. That's how crazy. I can't even make sense of it. $1 million billion.
War in Ukraine, back in May of last year.
Sorry, back up. What?
To the point where when Joe Biden wanted $40 billion more for the war in Ukraine, back in May of last year, every single Democrat, from the more establishment conservative wings to the moderate wing to the supposed left wing of the Democratic Party led by Bernie Sanders and AOC, Every single last one of them fell lockstep into line and unanimously voted yes.
It could be, and I'm going to float this, and this might be confusing to you. It could be because this was not even a partisan issue for Democrats, but one that they clearly saw as important on an individual level. Could be that. Just saying.
In partnership with the establishment wing of the Democratic Party,
Establishment.
people like Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, to vote yes in support of sending $100 billion of American funds.
No, the 40. If you'll recall in the part of the story you were talking about the point where it was an extra 40. But
in that case, $40 billion to fuel.
Yeah, 100 billion, 40 billion, whatever.
The war in Ukraine. To enrich the CIA, expand their authority, enrich Raytheon and General Dynamics.
Yeah, that's all it was for. I mean, I don't even know. The funny part is that I don't even know why they didn't just, since everybody was in lockstep and they were all just doing it to enrich Raytheon and General Dynamics, why didn't they just sign the bill and not have a war? Why don't they just give them extra money and then just, why even buy, just here's $140 billion. Don't blow anything up. Why don't we pay? What the fuck?
There is no longer any internal debate within Democratic Party.
Sure there is, but once the debate is over, everybody works together for the same goal.
Party politics or the mainstream left liberal faction, by which I mean the faction that follows Bernie and AOC, and at the end of the day is nothing more than...
Yeah, they're just, I don't know, ew.
Democratic Party loyalists.
That's all they are. They're just members of the Democratic Party making decisions about another country that's been attacked by Russia. The nerve.
The exact opposite is true when it comes to American conservatism.
Yes, it's a divided mess right now.
In the Republican Party.
Yeah, they're scattered and fucked up. We get it. They can't cohesively come up with a strategy to save their ass.
Where there is vibrant and often extreme and hostile debate.
Yes, vibrant hostility. I think that's the key to a functioning political party in a democracy, is that not hostile debate between the parties, but inside one of them. I think that's a great idea. And Glenn, I'm starting to understand why you don't have any co-hosts.
Within the party and within American conservatism, not about ancillary issues, but about the most important issues of the day. Starting with the U.S. proxy war in Ukraine, which Joe...
Oh, fuck off with this. What does this have to do with Tucker Carlson?
Who voted no. Increase along with their budget on the right wing, conservative wing, often bring on my show, like Norman, their followers to go and vote Democrat, no team liberal left, the mainstream.
Oh my God, fucking blather, blather, blather. I can't, I'm done. I went over time anyways. What the shit? What is that? Fucking hell.